The MLB offseason is already in full swing, so let's hop right into it. Welcome back to Good Sports for You, where we are talking about good sports for you. And today we are talking about the big trades that have already happened, and we're going to be focusing on that big time trade, that Marcus Semien Brandon Nimmo trade. But before we get into it, I want to remind you to like, comment, subscribe. Even though it's the baseball offseason, I will still be coming at you with content every single week. So make sure to stay tuned by hitting that subscribe button and supporting me through liking and commenting. I appreciate it so much. But before we get into the main meal, we got to start off with the appetizer, and that is going to be the Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward trade with the Orioles and the Angels. Now, if I'm being 100% honest, this trade didn't make a lot of sense to me from the Orioles perspective. My biggest thing with the Orioles this offseason, I've talked about it before, is just stay the course. They have a talented group of young players, and they traded away one of those talented young players, this former top prospect in Grayson Rodriguez, who has a ton of team control left, in exchange for a guy who's basically a long-term rental with Taylor Ward. He has the potential to be a free agent in this next offseason. In addition, the Orioles' biggest need was starting pitching, and you're getting rid of a guy who has the potential to be a future ace. At a bare minimum, he is going to be a 3 or 4 starter in most MLB staffs, and now you're getting rid of him in exchange for another position player where you basically know what you're going to get. Taylor Ward is an above average bat, but he is not a superstar by any means, and you're only going to have him for 1 year. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me on the side of the Orioles. But in terms of the Angels, I really like this move for them. They're getting rid of some money. Now they have the potential to go out and sign a big free agent if they want to. I wouldn't want that for them personally, but they're at least saving up some money to potentially make a push in the future. And with Grayson Rodriguez, like I said, he has the potential to be an ace. Yes, he has dealt with some injury issues in the past, but you're only giving up a guy who has 1 year of team control in exchange for a guy who has huge potential. And even if that potential doesn't work out, you're getting rid of a guy who you probably would have traded at the trade deadline anyway. If we're being 100% honest, you're getting some money off the books. So if it's a loss for the Angels, it's not going to be a huge loss by any means. I really like this move for the Angels. They get a guy who fits the timeline and who has huge upside and big time potential, and they're getting rid of a known quantity. Essentially, in the Angels right now, they don't need known quantities. They need the unknown. They need to find a boom, and they can't afford to just have a guy who you're basically like, okay, he's going to be above average for a team that, quite frankly, we know isn't going to do a lot in the 2026 season. But now on to the big time deal. That is going to be Marcus Semien from the Rangers in exchange for a longtime Met, Brandon Nimmo, obviously from the Mets. This is another 1-for-1 deal, which is shocking. I feel like it's not a lot that we see a 1-for-1 deal for 2 major leaguers, and now we see 2 of them in the past couple weeks. And this honestly was a little bit out of nowhere for me. I checked my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I didn't think it would happen because both of these contracts are big contracts on the one hand. And also, Brandon Nimmo has been a lifelong Met the entire time, and Marcus Semien is just a guy. Like, he's very good. He didn't have a great bat this season, but you know what he's going to do. He's going to provide excellent defense, and that's what the Mets were looking for. David Stearns, the GM of the Mets, I got a lot of history with David Stearns. He was the GM for the Brewers, and I know what David Stearns likes. He likes good defense, and he talked about in this offseason that he was going to prioritize run prevention for the Mets. In this first move, getting Marcus Semien just shows how important that run prevention is going to be. So if you aren't very familiar with either of these players' games, Marcus Semien, essentially what you're going to get is you're going to get a vet at second base who has consistently played every single day, except for this past year. He just had his first season in a long time where he actually missed some serious time due to injury, so that is a bit of a concern. But Marcus Semien, he's going to go out and try to play every single day. He is going to be a leader in the clubhouse, and he is going to be a very good defensive second baseman. And the bat is going to be probably below average now because he is getting older. But in the past, he's had these weird things where he's dipped a little bit, and then he comes back the next season and has one of the best seasons in the MLB. He has finished third in MVP votes 3 times. He is a 3-time All-Star. He is a multiple-time 2-time Gold Glove winner. So he just kind of comes out of nowhere and has these fantastic seasons. So I wouldn't be surprised by any means if Marcus Semien can do that once again. And on the Mets side of things, they're getting rid of Brandon Nimmo. And the biggest thing for me with Brandon Nimmo is that he has been a lifelong Met his whole entire time. He has spent a decade in the orange and blue, and now they're getting rid of him for a guy who, like I said, he's good, but he's not going to be a franchise-altering player. Brandon Nimmo is in the top 10 in multiple statistical categories as a Met. If he finished out his long-term contract with the Mets, he probably would have gotten his number retired. So obviously, if you're a Mets fan, this one is going to sting a little bit. But Marcus Semien is a very good and very quality player. And so I wanted to listen to a couple of podcasts from both sides of things because I'm a Brewers fan. I'm a baseball fan first and foremost, though. But I wanted to get the reaction from the other sides because from an outsider looking in, this move is kind of a head scratcher. And what I found interesting is both sides think that it was a confusing trade and that they're sad that they're losing their guy, but they think that they got better. The Mets feel that they got better because now you have one of, if not the best defensive combination up the middle. In Francisco Lindor and Marcus Semien, basically nothing is going to get through that middle of the infield. So if you wanted to get better on defense, that is 100% what you're getting. Brandon Nimmo graded out to an average to below average defensive left fielder. And then on the Rangers side of things, you wanted a bat. Marcus Semien wasn't the bat that you needed, so you needed to go out and find something. And they got Brandon Nimmo, who is an above average bat. Consistently, he has a very good OPS plus. He's going to get the job done. The one thing is he is moving to the Rangers Stadium, which is a poor hitter's park. So expect to look at those offensive numbers and for them to drop down a little bit. In addition, they also cut Adolis Garcia, who was another one of those corner outfielders. That was a surprise for me. I thought Adolis Garcia was basically there to stay. He's a quality player, but they decided to cut him because, and I was listening to the Rangers podcast and they were talking about how, he was striking out a lot, and they're trying to find a brand of baseball that doesn't strike out a ton and gets on base at a higher clip. Brandon Nimmo is going to do that for you. So now the question is, how are the Rangers going to shuffle things around in the outfield? Brandon Nimmo is a left fielder. Could he play right? I mean, maybe. He's really only played left field, though. Wyatt Langford is your current left fielder, and he had a fantastic season. Are you going to say, okay, defensively, we think we can move you over to center field? There's potential there. They have a center fielder right now, though, who's a lefty who can't hit well against lefties. So maybe you have Nimmo in left, you move Wyatt Langford to right, you bring up one of your prospects who's a long-term guy who can fill in there. It's the same thing with second base. How are you going to fill that out? And they have a lot of young players who have the potential to do that. But the biggest thing is, too, you're losing a clubhouse leader in Marcus Semien, and the Mets are gaining a big-time leader. He has been around the block at every single stage of what it is in a baseball life. He has played on some bad teams and he's played poorly and he's been cut before. He's been traded before. He's signed places before. And one thing that I think is interesting is he has succeeded at almost every single level. When he was with the Oakland Athletics, that was a very good team, and it was a cheap team, which I think is very interesting too. He then signed some big-time contracts with some big-time teams. In the Toronto Blue Jays, he had good seasons when he was with the Blue Jays, and then he moved over to the Rangers, and he's getting paid a lot. That was a very expensive team. Corey Seager is an expensive player who's on that team as well. They signed other big-time name free agents also there, and he went out there and he won a ring, and he also performed at a high level. And the Mets, after their collapse this past season, was in need of something, quite frankly, anything to change. And this just could be the signal of, hey, we need to go out and we need to find a leader who knows what it's like to win. And Soto has won in the past, but he was very young when he was doing it. He wasn't a leader on that Nationals team. Marcus Semien was a leader on that Rangers team. So now he is going over and he is going to be a leader for this Mets squad. Other questions that come up is when you're looking at contracts, Marcus Semien still has a couple years left on the contract. He has $70 million left in that contract, with $26 million being paid this year, $26 next year, and $20 in the final year. And he's going to be 37 in that final year of the contract. So you're going to be paying a 37 defensive first guy $20 million. I don't know if you love to see that, but it does free up a lot of money later down the line. So you could potentially see the Mets try to make a move for one of the big time free agents, like a Kyle Tucker, like a Cody Bellinger, or honestly just trying to re-sign Pete Alonso to a long-term contract because now they have freed up money long-term. On the short term, the Rangers free up $5 million short term because Brandon Nimmo, he has $100 million left on his contract, but it's going to be $20 million across 5 years each, right? So $20 million this year, and next year, next year, next year, next year. So you're freeing up $6 million, and the Mets, I know, are also sending over some money to make the money fit better. But he is also going to be 37 when that ends. And then you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, we're going to be paying a 37-year-old who's not a very good defensive outfielder. He may very well move into the DH spot, or he's going to be a poor defensive outfielder even more so, and we're going to be paying him $20 million. Do you want to be paying a 37-year-old DH $20 million? Probably not. But it frees up money short term so they can sign a guy to a short-term contract to try to make a push now. What quite frankly is a very weak AL West right now. They can easily make a move for a wild card spot. And we have seen it happen before that wild card teams can easily find their way into the World Series and try to make something happen. You just need the right guys to get hot, and they have the perfect recipe for guys to get hot. Corey Seager, when he gets hot, is one of, if not the best hitter in all of baseball. He is right up there with like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, when it comes to when they are right, they are right. Or Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, when those guys are on, those guys are on. Jacob deGrom, when he is on and healthy, he is the best pitcher in baseball, and I don't even think that's arguable. You can put him right up with Tarek Skubal, with Paul Skeens. Prime Jacob deGrom, and what he can still do right now when he's healthy is going to be some of the best things ever. Another thing, the final thing that I want to note, when we're talking about Marcus Semien, I think that he often gets disrespected because, the bat isn't quite there. But when you look at the numbers, he has the potential to be a Hall of Famer. He's approaching 50 WAR. He's approaching a lot of those benchmarks like 2,000 hits, and he very well may make that when he has those couple years left on his contract. If he can get up to like 55, 60 WAR, and he's got 3 or 4 All-Stars under the belt, multiple top 3 MVP finishes, multiple Gold Gloves, a Silver Slugger thrown in there for good measure, like you're looking at a potential Hall of Fame case. So I think that's interesting to see what would happen if the Rangers traded out a potential Hall of Famer. I just think that it's a really interesting move that I was absolutely stunned by. Like I said, so just like general kind of consensus overcap is I was stunned by the move when it happened. When I heard people break it down and when I broke it down for myself, I'm still confused. Like it makes sense, but it seems like a pretty lateral move where you're saying we're trading one big contract for another big contract. What this means for the Mets in the future. Nimmo had a no trade clause that he decided to waive for this trade, so that's huge. The fans, I'm sure, are sad because you're losing a franchise guy who's been there the entire time. Pete Alonso, is he going to be affected by that at all? Sure, they're going to free up more money long term for him, but he's losing a guy that he had on the Mets his whole entire time that he was up. So how could that impact how you're looking at the team composition in the future? Could this signal more trades like a Jeff McNeil, also another guy who's getting older? So it's like these things you got to think about. Could this free up money to sign a long-term free agent? But also the thing is, you never know until these deals actually happen. So obviously we're going to look at it in hindsight and see what it is. And then for the Rangers, you're going to get a better bat, and then you're going to lose some things defensively. If they can use that saved like $6 million or however much money it is, like how can they turn that into a potential free agent who can help them win now or who can help them do whatever they need to do in the future? So I just think it's a very interesting move, kind of a lateral move, and one that kind of surprised me. But this MLB offseason is shaping up to be even more exciting than I think any of us thought. And basically, that's all I got for you. I hope you had a good time listening to me. I had a great time talking to you. That's it for me, and I'm out. Peace.